Today I'm going to be showing you how I installed my Fusion amp on my Robalo 246 Cayman. So I ended up deciding to mount it over here on the right hand side, and the reason why I decided to do that was because this cover, when it slides into place in this area right here, the only way that it can go in is into this corner, and then it closes back that way. So if you installed it on this side or anywhere else besides like down low, the cover would not go back into place. And so make sure when you install this that this amp is as far as over you can to this edge right here. And I probably could have gotten it a little bit closer than what I did, and I wish I would have gotten it a little bit closer. So that was kind of a lesson learned. So try to scoot it over as much as possible. When I installed my amp, I did not have it mounted. I actually held it in my hand and connected all my radio wires, and I actually connected it to the stock head unit for Robalo 246, and that is the Clarion right here. And you can see I still have it on. I have it right here, the Clarion unit. And when I went to install this myself, there was no videos on how to install an amp on a Robalo 246 or anything like how connecting it from the Clarion head unit or any head unit really. It was kind of, couldn't find any videos, so I decided to make a video real quick about that. So this is the Clarion head unit as it comes out, and it just has tons of wires coming out of it, and it has all these different colors on it. And so to end up seeing where those wires are, I end up having to cut this and slide this all the way back to about right here to be able to see it, where you can see all those radio wires coming out. And in order to find this, I had to go to the Clarion website, and it actually has a diagram just like this. I'm going to show you here right now. It has a diagram, and it tells you exactly which wire is your front speakers, which wires are your back speakers, left and right. And so it actually makes it really easy once you see this diagram and you know to go to the website to find it. So in order to get sound from your amp or to your head unit, you actually need RCA cable. Since I got the 4-bank RCA cable, 4-bank Fusion amp, it came with 4 places to put in the RCA cables, and that runs all the way down, and it connects right here to your Clarion unit right here. So if you have the same stock Clarion unit that I have, this is where your RCA cables will connect to allow you to get sound through your stock head unit. So you can run your negative wire if you want to all the way down to the back of the boat, but you don't really have to. Fusion said that you can actually run it to your closest bank right here, your negative bank. And the closest one that I have is here, and in the amp kit that I got, this is the wire that I got. It was a very short wire, and the blue wire, the power wire, is like 26 feet long or 23 feet long, and so that had enough to go all the way back to my battery. And I was kind of worried about that. I was like, ooh, can you actually do this? But after doing a lot of research on it, the only wire that has to run all the way back to your battery is your power wire. And so that's probably the hardest part of installing this. And you can see back here you got your power wire. This is your remote wire, and it runs all the way up to your Clarion unit right here. You can see where I snipped it right there, and then used butt connectors, waterproof butt connectors, connected all the way down to my amp. And so the hardest part is running this blue wire all the way through here, through this big things of wire right here. So if you don't have a pull cord already installed on your boat, really highly recommend installing a pull cord, because that will really speed up things. And so I'm going to go show you the back of the boat here where the power cable runs all the way to. So I do have 4 speakers on my boat, and I installed this amp strictly for the speakers. I don't have a sub, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second. But here's where the power cable comes out. Here's my pull cord that I installed, and it goes all the way right here. And so Fusion tells you to install the inline fuse as close as you can to the battery right here. And so I got the inline fuse installed here. I end up using electrical tape to help make it watertight, just because it does get a lot of moisture back here. And I'm always looking for new ideas for this. I try to find a shrink wrap that was big enough to go all the way around this. I couldn't find one, and so I just ended up using electrical tape for that. And there was nothing in the amp kit that was giving me a watertight connection here. You can see I got a little bit of water dropping down right here. So one of the things, a lesson learned for me, and I ended up mounting mine this way. I ended up using through bolts all the way through, and I connected them here, here, and here. And I don't have a fourth one because the amp right there, the bracket is not big enough for the fourth bolt right there. So it's actually kind of sticking out, but it's actually really sturdy. The bad thing about installing the amp that way, if I got another amp and it was a different size, then the holes won't line up. So, you know, that's probably not the best way to install it. I've seen other people install it where they put starboard right here, and I didn't have any starboard, and I already made like multiple trips to the store, and so I just went ahead and decided to mount it like this. But it is like super sturdy right here. I don't know if I talked about this yet. These are all my radio wires. The diagrams show you which radio wires are your front, back, left, right, and going all the way through right here. So in order to install this, the way that I did it, and you're gonna need a pair of wire cutters here. And one thing I quickly found out is when I was trying to connect the battery, that the AutoZone ones that say they have the battery clip right here at the very bottom, that is not strong enough to actually crimp a battery wire. So had to get a big pair of crimps, and that was a little bit of extra money that I was not expecting to spend. I end up having to use two weatherproof butt types. This is the 22 by 16 gauge, and I also had to have the 16 by 14 gauge right here. And that was because in the Robalo, the gauge wire that's actually ran to our speakers is actually 16 gauge. I'm sorry, it's actually, yes, 14 gauge. And then this speaker wire here is 16 gauge. And so they actually run really thick wire in the Robalo boats, and so I had to have a connection for that. And then I needed the smaller butt connection for the remote wire coming all the way down. Here is how it goes in right here. You got your negative, you got your power, and then you have your radio speakers here. I think these are my front speakers, and these are my back speakers. And also I chose to mount the amp this way because now I can easily see from atop the controls for it right here. And so for me, I'm just doing high pass speakers, and I'm just doing speakers, and so I have it in high pass mode, and then all of these are 0, and the only one that is turned like almost a quarter of a way is the high pass. And so I watched multiple videos on Fusion to see how I needed to do that. I really couldn't find any videos besides the Fusion videos that showed me what I needed to be set on. And so that's how I end up setting it up. And if you don't set it up that way and you don't put the high pass on, you could actually blow your speakers. So here's one of my speakers right here that I have in the boat. And before I installed this, it was actually I actually couldn't hear the speakers as I was running. At the beach, I could hear them perfectly fine, but it wasn't really that loud. So let's turn them on real quick and see how loud they are. Whoa. That was a little too loud right there at first. So that's right at 18 on the Clarion, and I found out like right around like 30, 31, I can hear that really good when I'm running. I know you guys on the TV, you don't see how loud it is, but it actually is really loud. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this back down, and I'm going to show you how it looks when I install the cover right here. And so on my boat, that's a big thing about mounting this thing, about mounting this speaker, is, gotta turn this off real quick, is making sure you have enough room to put that big cover in here real quick. So I'm gonna do that real quick and then turn back on the camera. All right, just got my cover installed, and it is not the easiest to install it with the amp here. So make sure, guys, scoot this amp over as far as possible. This is probably the biggest amp you could probably get in here and still mount on this bracket right here. Now you could probably go in and mount right here where it is not as thick at, and go straight into the fiberglass and miss this bracket, and that might make things a little bit easier, but it does work this way. And you can see that, like I said before, this one doesn't have a bolt in it, but that thing is sturdy. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed this episode. Hopefully it makes your install a little bit easier. You can learn from my lessons learned, and I'll see you guys hopefully next week.